What's going on, everybody? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christian Filly Filimon. I am joined today by Tacoma Stars head coach / player legend, Nick Perera. Nick, first and foremost, congrats on the win this past Sunday against the San Diego Sockers.
Yeah, thanks. Obviously, we felt like we were deserving of a win. We'd been fighting and scraping through a couple matches, so it was nice to finally grab one.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to call that game. Fortunately, it's the first overtime game. My voice is still hoarse from screaming out that call.
It was definitely anytime in overtime there's a win. It's emotional and it's exciting. So we've actually been to overtime, I believe, 4 times this year. We're 2-2 in overtime. So of 11 games, that 4 out of 11 have gone to overtime. It's pretty crazy.
Yo, absolutely. And speaking of which, this entire season has been crazy for everybody involved. But I would imagine that this hard-fought victory is just the bit of positivity and motivation you need heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, we've dealt with some pretty insane adversity. We obviously, I don't think it's a secret to anybody that we had a lot of players come down with COVID in the middle of our season, and that obviously derails a lot of what you're doing. I personally dealt with it for a little bit, and it's not fun. So trying to get fit for a season that you don't know how long it's going to be, and then having it derailed in the middle of the season with health issues is obviously really difficult. So to be honest, it's a point of immense pride for our team that we were able to win a game in Florida and then a game here. Just to be able to pick up that win. Obviously, the one in KC also was huge. So for us, coming back from injury, this is exactly the kind of salve and medicine we needed.
Talk to us about your overall opinion on how this season played out, not only for the Stars, but for the league as a whole.
Well, I think first and foremost, I think we've got to give an incredible amount of credit and praise to the owners that stayed in and made sure that we did have a league, because the reality was that it was a difficult time. There was a lot of decisions that were taken by that had to be taken on the whole as a league and as individual owners on whether they could make it work. So the ones that did stay and were able to financially stay, that's not to discredit those that didn't. It's just that those were able to stay have really provided an immense service for the indoor fans and for the players. I mean, if it wasn't for those owners who decided that they wanted to make this work, we wouldn't be playing, we wouldn't be talking. So first and foremost, incredible praise. And then I think we've shown as a league the amount of resilience that our players, our staff, and everybody involved in the back office has to deal with new challenges. I mean, a lot of sports leagues around the world have had to deal with challenges they've never had before. So I'm pretty proud of the product that we've been able to put together and put forward. Obviously, the circumstances aren't exactly as we would have loved. We'd much rather have fans in the stands. We'd rather be shaking hands and kissing babies after games. But the reality is that where we are, I think we've done an incredible job of putting together a really quality product.
Absolutely. And we've certainly enjoyed it. I mean, these past couple of games have been action-packed and intense, so we certainly appreciate your efforts as well. Now, what's happened over the course of the regular season is over. Everyone is in the playoffs. March Madness is alive and well in MASL, and anything can happen. Anybody can win. Anything can happen. How's the team feeling heading into the playoffs right now?
Well, I think that we're feeling good about ourselves. I think there was a steady progression from this weekend in particular. I think our weakest game was against Florida, and then we played a little bit better against Ontario and a little better against San Diego, and then finally we got to win against San Diego. So I think for us, it was about finishing the weekend on a high. That was the most important, that was the most important factor for us leading into our training camp for the next couple of weeks and leading into what we have for the playoffs. The reality of this league is that at any given point, I think any team can beat anybody. I think that's been proven throughout the league. San Diego could lose to St. Louis. We could lose to St. Louis. We could beat Florida. Florida could smash St. Louis. So it's really difficult to if you were a bookie in Vegas, you have a tough time calling some of these games and deciding what the odds were on these games. It's really complex. But again, it's credit to the league and credit to the teams that have put together a really strong team. So we feel very confident that what we're doing is heading towards the right path. I think that every coach has their own philosophy on what they want to say about things. Mine is that the better we get as a team, the more we develop, the more we progress, the good things will come. I'm not the kind of person that talks about championships day one of season. That's not my style. I'm somebody who talks about making sure that every single session we get better, every game we learn a lesson. And then if you accumulate enough lessons and you learn enough throughout the season and you're doing the right things consistently, good things will come. So we're confident that we've got some pieces in place that can do some damage. And we have a really good locker room and a great group of guys that believe in what we're doing. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
How surprised were you when you found out that you were going to be squaring off the Sockers? And were they the team that you anticipated facing in the opening rounds?
Well, again, going back to the Vegas, bookies, I think that when you started to do the math about 2 weeks ago, I pretty much knew that the San Diego team was probably going to be who we were going to face, based off of early predictions on who would take first and second, who the selections would be from first and second, regional difficulties, travel difficulties. It looked as though San Diego was probably our opponent. So obviously, San Diego's been our opponent every time in the playoffs the last 3 or 4 years. So it's not that surprising that we're going to face up against them, even though this format is different. But they're a fantastic team. They always have been a fantastic team. So for us, it's really about trying to change the time, change the tides. And we've always been the team that's been the underdog, hoping to beat San Diego. And I think it's, for us, there's motivation to say, those times have somewhat changed. And we're hoping to be the Tacoma Stars team that can get through that first round against the Sockers and step into the next round.
Having already played them, lost to them, and beaten them, what adjustments do you feel need to be made in order to keep the Stars winning?
I think that for me at least, everything that we've been talking about lately has been about us. I think this year in particular, with the shortened season, the shortened run up to the playoffs, usually at this point we're 24 games in. You can figure out a lot of things. You can tinker. You can play with things. This year it's much shorter. We've been focusing on us. So I think the emphasis on our side is, how do I improve our team, whoever we play against? How do we improve what we do? How do we improve the way we play against them when they do A? How do we improve when we play against them when they do B? So that's what all the emphasis has been on, is just trying to improve our process, looking at game tape, analyzing our weaknesses and trying to improve on them whilst continuing to improve that which we do well.
What team, other than the Stars, of course, do you feel has the best chance at making a deep postseason run?
Well, that's a good question. I think that obviously Ontario have shown that they're extremely physically prepared for a playoff series. I think that that's a big factor in playoffs. If it was a one-off game, it's different, but with a 2-game series with a mini game attached at the end, fitness is going to play a strong part, and I think Ontario's got that box ticked. I think the way that the format has been set up, I think that Florida, with them being the number 1 pick, being able to pick their opponent or sit out in the semis and then pick their opponent, I think that's a huge advantage. So I think Ontario and Florida are set up for a very, very strong finish. I will, however, say that I think Kansas City has got some pieces, some acquisitions that they picked up that are really going to help their game and have helped their game. So I think that, this league is unpredictable because every team is good. So I'd be a fool to tell you that I know something somebody else doesn't know. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the way it all pans out. But I think Ontario and Florida right now, with the format of the playoffs as they stand, have a huge advantage.
I bet all the Tropics and Fury fans would appreciate those statements. No doubt there. Now, any last words or thoughts you'd like to leave the viewers or the listeners with before we let you go?
No, I mean, I'm just hoping that everybody can tune in and watch the games. It's very difficult to play in an empty stadium. We've been receiving a lot of notices and a lot of fan messages from our Stars fans about the season, about what they like, what they don't like, about how excited they are about certain things. So I would just say that in a season which is strange, where we don't have the physical connection to our fans, having their support is invaluable for every team, but especially for us. We have a really strong connection to our Tacoma fans, so having them involved in what we're doing is huge. We've been trying to find creative ways to engage with them. So continuing that support across the league is going to help everybody.
Strong words and strong thoughts from an elite of the indoor game. Well, I want to say thank you for your time today, Nick. Really appreciate it. Good luck in the tournament, and looking forward to seeing you in Toyota Arena.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. See you next week.
All right. Sounds good.